Hello there, this is Ty the Movie Guy, and we are back with one of my most popular series, my favorite movie of every year. And for this episode, we'll be talking all about the 2010s.
Fire, you son of a... Great power comes great responsibility.
My brother had a
You do this all day. I am Iron Man. Why so serious?
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
And before we get started, I just want to clarify that the 2010s are very, very special to me because this is the first decade that I've managed to live all the way through. So just tons of these movies I've watched on loop over and over again, and I've seen them in theaters and all of that stuff. So once again, like the 2000s, there's going to be a couple of ties just because I can't decide which one's better because they're both like very near and dear to me. And then also, if you're one of those Scorsese fanboy Marvel haters, you are going to hate this video because there's going to be tons and tons of Marvel in this video because just all of Marvel played such a huge part on my childhood. So of course I'm going to look back on them fondly, and so there's going to be tons of Marvel in this video. So before you go and like shit talk me in the comments, take that into consideration because I was just a little kid at the time, and I just loved watching all those movies in theaters and leading up to Endgame, of course, and just all of that. So keep that in mind, and let's get started with 2010. Starting off with 2010, we have encountered our first tie with Toy Story 3 and Inception, and both of these films are just absolutely phenomenal. Starting with Toy Story 3, this might be my very first movie theater experience. I have no recollection of watching this in theaters because I was only 6 at the time, but my mom told me we saw it in theaters for my birthday because it seems like Pixar always likes to drop movies in June for my birthday, so that's always really cool. But yeah, this movie is just phenomenal. Last time I watched it was 2020, and it just still holds up to this day. Just with like seeing Andy get older and seeing how like the toys react to that, and how everyone wants to like kind of move on, but Woody stays loyal to Andy, and he wants to get back to him, and he's willing to like live in the attic if that's what Andy wants for him. And he has a bit of a character arc from like I'll do anything for Andy to no, Andy's moved on, we must move on too. And the whole Sunnyside daycare thing, and how it's kind of like prison-esque and they got to break out and all of that is just really, really fun. And Lotso is probably the best villain of this whole franchise. You know, he starts off all lovable and everything, but he has like a dark, twisted backstory to him and everything, and it's cool seeing his backstory and him going all evil and everything. And then of course we have to mention the incinerator scene. I've mentioned this before in top 10 scariest movies of my childhood. This is my number one scariest movie of my childhood just because my favorite characters were willing to die, and they were just ready to die, and just the score and everything from that scene where it goes like din 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 din, and Woody's just like holding hands and getting ready to die and everything, and just oh my god, like that's basically like my Winter Soldier tick. Like if you show me that scene, I will start bawling my eyes out because that scene is just so emotional to me, and I will just cry over it no matter what. I'm definitely going to rewatch all of Toy Story for number 5 next year, so I'm really excited to rewatch that whole franchise and once again cry watching the incinerator scene. And then of course when Andy finally passes on the toys to Bonnie, it's just such an emotional scene and such a great send-off for all these characters. They probably should have just ended the whole series with number 3, but they've kept going, and hopefully number 5 is good. But yeah, that's why I love Toy Story 3. And then also Inception is also just a phenomenal film where basically it spends like half the film setting up all of like the dream rules and everything, and like how everything works. And you know, usually a movie like this, if you were to spend half the film setting this up, it would be pretty boring. But Christopher Nolan, my boy, he just knows how to make just like everything interesting. And just so seeing all of like the cool dream stuff, like walking on walls and streets like turn and twist and mirrors and all of that, just even though it's just like showing this world and explaining the rules, it's just all so interesting. And then when the heist actually happens, dreams inside of dreams inside of dreams inside of dreams is just super, super cool to see. And then learning more and more about Leonardo DiCaprio, Cobb, and his whole thing with like Maul and everything, and like what happened between them, and our final scene where, you know, he finally confronts her and everything is just really, really cool. And then the very final scene, and he finally sees his kids, and the score just like gets all intense and then it goes quiet as he finally sees his kids is also super emotional. Not as much as Toy Story 3, but I think I've seen Inception twice now, and both times the final scene has also made me cry with that amazing final scene with how the score rises, and then goes quiet as he finally sees his kids is just all phenomenal. And I love endings like this where it's kind of like, did he stop dreaming or is he still dreaming because of that top? Like, is the top gonna keep going or is the top gonna fall over and he's actually not dreaming? I love endings like that. Me personally, I like to be on the more hopeful side, so I say he got out of the dream and he finally got to see his kids. So yeah, both of these films are absolutely phenomenal, and that's why they are the best films of 2010. But also, I just want to mention, 2010 is like one of the best years of film of all time. You got like Megamind, you got these two movies, you got Shutter Island. But yeah, that is why these are my favorite movies of 2010. And my two favorite films of 2011 is another tie with Kung Fu Panda 2 and Captain America: The First Avenger. And starting with Kung Fu Panda 2, I just love how this film basically takes everything great about the first film and makes it even better. I'd say everything is better about this film except for the villain. I'd say Tai Lung is a better villain over Shen, but I do also really love Shen, and I love how he plays more of a part in Poe's whole origin and everything. But yeah, I love how they go to the big city, and it's kind of like more of a underdog story where they gotta like sneak around from like the wolves and everything, and they're on the run and all of that. And as we learn more and more about Poe's whole origin and what happened to his family, and he's trying to learn inner peace, and his whole conversation with Shen, and Shen's like, how have you learned inner peace? I've taken everything from you, and just is so amazing. And then after he gets injured and then he finally learns inner peace, and he's doing the whole thing with the water, and it's like showing his whole origin, and it's like Hans Zimmer once again with his score is just and then as he's bending the water and everything is just really, really cool. I rewatched this film last year for Kung Fu Panda 4, which was really disappointing, unfortunately. But when I rewatched Kung Fu Panda 2, that scene actually made me cry. I don't think it's ever made me cry before, but I don't know why, but I've just become more emotional lately and just appreciated score more, probably. So yeah, all in all, it just takes everything great from the first film and just turns it up a notch. So that's why I love Kung Fu Panda 2. And then with Captain America: The First Avenger, Captain America is my favorite character of all time, so of course I'm going to love his origin story. And I love how this film is a big departure from everything else in the MCU with its whole World War II aesthetic and everything. Just really makes it unique from everything else we've gotten. And just, yeah, the whole origin story and just seeing him, even as like a scrawny little guy, he's just this nice guy who will stand up for himself and he'll do what's right, and everything is just really, really cool. And seeing him train and seeing him with Peggy and seeing him with Bucky and losing Bucky and fighting Red Skull and just his whole origin, and once again with the score where it's like dun, 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 is just all super, super cool. I have this film on DVD and I would just watch it on loop as a little kid. And yeah, so this film is just also super nostalgic to me. So that's why both of these films are my favorite of 2011. And my favorite film of 2012 is The Avengers. And this is a film I actually do remember going to the theaters, and I have very fond memories of going to the theater with my dad to watch this film. And I remember watching Loki walk through the portal for the first time and mind controlling Hawkeye and other different characters. And I just remember that being very, very scary to me as a little like 7-year-old kid. So yeah, I have very fond memories of this whole film, and just specifically that opening scene I distinctly remember as a little kid. And just this film in general is very, very special because it is like the first film to like have like a bunch of different movies setting up these characters and then just bring them all together for just a slam bang film working all together, and just all the camaraderie together and all of that is just all thanks to Joss Whedon. I recently watched another Joss Whedon film called Serenity, and you can just really like see that this guy is like known for just that type of humor and just the chemistry between different characters. So it's like interesting, like it made me go, oh okay, that's why they got this guy to do Avengers, because like he was just really good at like all these characters working together. And then just the New York scene is just such a great final showdown, just with like all of like the iconic imagery when they're on the bridge and like the camera spins around them and it goes dun, 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 just all of that. And then, you know, when they finally catch Loki and you know, they're all standing there and Hawkeye's got the bow and that group shot of like Loki's POV as they finally get him and everything is just, yeah, seeing all these characters come together, their struggles, like trying to get along, and then just the slam bang finale in New York is just all phenomenal. So that's why this is my favorite film of 2012 and my favorite film of 2013, and currently my favorite film of all time is Prisoners. This film is just a whole trip. I've seen this film 3 times, and I remember the first time I saw it, I gave it like a 7 out of 10. I didn't think too much of it, and then I just kept on processing it and thinking about it and all of that. And just like, yeah, the more I thought about it, and like the 2 other times I watched it, just cemented it as it just kept going up and up and up. And then I'm like, this might be my favorite film of all time. Just even though I've seen it 3 times now, I just get the same anxiety the whole time. I know what's gonna happen, but just the ups and downs of the whole film of like they're gonna find the kids and then they think the kids are dead. It just twists my insides, like seeing Hugh Jackman like think his daughter's dead and just all of that, and just, oh my god, just the performances in this film are phenomenal. Like Jake Gyllenhaal as Detective Loki and the cop, he does like a great job, but you gotta give it to Hugh Jackman as Keller Dover, this Christian dad who's, you know, just like a regular everyday guy, and like all the whole scenes of him like interrogating Paul Dano and everything. Just like, you know, that bathroom scene with the hammer and he's like, "Where's my daughter?" is like one of my favorite scenes of all time. Tell me! Tell me! Tell me! Tell me! Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? His acting performance in that scene is phenomenal. I don't know why, but I think out of every emotion, I love seeing actors get mad. That's just my favorite thing for any actor. I love to see them get mad. And just, yeah, the fact that he's just this Christian guy and he like has such a negative character arc because he like becomes like the very thing he hates, because his kid gets kidnapped and then he ends up kidnapping an innocent person to get his kid, and like he becomes like a monster that he hates so much and everything. And I just, yeah, as much as I want to hype up this film, I feel like I'm not doing it enough justice. You just gotta watch this film for yourself. I love it so much. It is just phenomenal. Watch it for yourself and just, yeah, tell me what you think, because I love it so much. So that is why this is my favorite film of 2013 and currently all time. And my favorite film of 2014 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And this is just a great like spy thriller, edge of your seat film where Captain America and Black Widow are on the run from S.H.I.E.L.D. and you don't know who to trust and who's good, who's bad, who's corrupt, who's Hydra. All of that is just really, really fun to see. And I think this film just is really just like one of the best of the MCU, and just like current MCU really needs to take notes of this film and just, you know, because this is a very like serious film, like hardly much joking around, just, you know, serious type stuff. So I think just like current Marvel really needs to see this is what we want. We want serious with a little bit of comedy from time to time, but just, you know, like stuff like this is just what like made like the MCU amazing and what we love so much and everything. And just, yeah, just like the fight scenes are phenomenal. Like me personally, I would take like great hand-to-hand combat like this over like big explosions and spectacle any day. Well, I guess, you know, there's like a time and place for like explosions. Like, you know, explosions are for like Avengers and stuff like that, and then like hand-to-hand stuff is just perfect for Captain America and different films like this, and it's just really fun to see. And then the core of this film that I love so much is, of course, the whole Winter Soldier Bucky reveal. Like, you know, if you've read the comics and stuff, you would probably easily know right away that, of course, Bucky is the Winter Soldier. But I feel like me watching this as like a 9-year-old kid or however old I was, this was actually a big surprise to me, and I was actually shocked by that. And then as the film progresses and, you know, Cap and Bucky are fighting on the helicarrier, and, you know, Bucky's just going to town on Cap. Cap just won't fight back, and he says, finish it, because I'm with you till the end of the line, is just so emotional. And it's also one of those scenes that just always gets me to tears. And just, you know, Cap is about to die, but he just will not fight his best friend, and it just makes for such a great emotional core to this entire amazing film. So all in all, that is why this is the best, or at least my favorite film of 2014. But this is also just a great year, like 2010. You know, you also got Interstellar. Interstellar was really close to being like tied with this film, but it just hasn't gotten there yet. Maybe if I watch it more, Interstellar will get to this level, but yeah, it's just not there yet. So we got Interstellar, we got the Lego Movie, we got like Whiplash. This is just, how could I forget Guardians, another great MCU film from this year. All in all, this is easily one of the best years for film, for me at least, and so The Winter Soldier comes on top. And my favorite film of 2015 is Avengers Age of Ultron. And yes, I do have to agree, this is the weakest of the Avengers movies, but that's not to say it's bad. It's just, you know, there's always got to be the bottom one, and unfortunately that is this one. But me personally, I still really do enjoy this film. I don't really get the hate for this film. I still think it's just a really solid movie, and it's just really special to me because this is kind of like the last time all the Avengers were together doing their, you know, classic shenanigans, camaraderie, and banter with each other. It's just all really fun to see. And so yeah, the fact that this is kind of like the last time, it just felt like it was the core six and everything. It was just really special to me and everything. And all the new additional characters were really cool, like Pietro and Wanda, I think are really cool. Me, when I first watched this film, I wasn't crazy about Wanda. I thought she was just like all whiny everything and like, my family's dead, blah, 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 blah. So I wasn't crazy about that, but like, it's crazy to see like how far she's progressed in the MCU with, you know, Infinity War, Endgame, WandaVision, Multiverse of Madness. She's just really come a long way, and now she's like one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise. But yeah, she also played like a big part in this film. I didn't like the character herself, but I liked her playing the mind games on all of our Avengers and pitting them against each other. I love the whole Hulkbuster fight. I love that scene. That's probably like my favorite scene in this whole film. Just seeing the Hulkbuster. I don't know why. I just really love that suit and everything. And watching Iron Man fight Hulk is just really funny and like him like buying buildings mid-fight and the part where he like punches a tooth out and then he's like, oh, sorry. And then yeah, just that scene is really cool and really funny. And also Vision was a great new additional character. And Ultron was a great villain as well. I wouldn't say he's as good as Loki or Thanos, but he's still a really great villain and one of like the best like villain intros. Like I know that's a very niche category, but his whole intro where he's all twisted and broken down. Oh, such a cool, creepy intro. And I loved it so much. So yeah, all in all, weakest of the Avengers, but I still do really have a fun time seeing my core six like this one last time. So that's why this is my favorite film of 2015. And my favorite film of 2016 is Captain America Civil War. It was just such a great idea to put the two best characters of the MCU against each other because of their like different ideologies, and they like both make sense in their own right, but it just like you like see their whole backstory and you see why like one character would think this way and one character would think this way. And just like the whole discussion back in the day of like, were you Team Cap or were you Team Iron Man? Me personally, I am Team Cap. I will always be Team Cap. If you are Team Iron Man, the door is over there. So yeah, get out. Like Team Cap all the way. You can commit a crime if it's in the name of friendship. Basically, you can quote me on that. That's my whole viewpoint of this whole film. And of course, I'm just a big Captain America fan and everything. Putting these two characters together and like assembling their teams, and then you know, the airport battle is just one of the greatest fight scenes of all of the MCU. Just seeing these iconic characters going head to head with each other is really fun. Just seeing, you know, Ant-Man become Giant Man was really amazing, and then Spider-Man referencing Empire to like take him out and everything was just, all of that was just really, really cool. And you know, that scene was amazing. It could have easily been the best scene of the film, but then they like one up it with the whole battle in Russia or wherever it was at the very end of the film, where Cap and Bucky are just tag teaming, fighting against Iron Man. Just it doesn't have the spectacle of the airport battle, but it has the emotion that I love so much. Iron Man discovers who killed his parents and everything, and then goes berserk, and then that whole fight scene and everything is amazing and just so emotional, and I love that all so much. And then Zemo, our villain, is a phenomenal villain. He was like the first villain that they actually didn't fight, and me as a little kid, I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I'm used to, like, you know, there's the big bad and then they fight him. But, like, turn the whole formula on its head, where it's, like, not just, like, some big, strong brute or whatever. He's, like, this conniving villain who's also got, like, a very believable backstory, and you sympathize for him, but you know what he's doing is also wrong. And, yeah, he's just, like, a smart guy, and I love characters like that, where they're in the background pulling the strings, like the Riddler in the Batman and everything, and I love villains like that. So even though he's not like the best fighter, like by no means at all, he cements himself as one of the best villains of the MCU, in my opinion. And also, this film like introduced us to Black Panther and Spider-Man in the MCU. So put that all together and you just got such a phenomenal film, and that's why it's my favorite film of 2016. And easily my favorite film of 2017 is Logan, and Wolverine is one of my favorite characters of all time. So just seeing this dark, gritty, depressing version of him was just so cool to see, and this is just like the perfect send-off to the character. I literally couldn't ask for anything better. It was just so amazing. Just this film needed the R rating, just with like the violence and everything, and just, oh my god, I love everything about it. And how, you know, Wolverine has this whole character arc of you know, just being like this selfish guy who only cares about like him and Professor X, and then he learns to like love and care for his daughter Laura, and he realizes his one last job to do is he's gotta like get her and all the other kids to safety, and he dies peacefully and everything, and you know, as he dies he says, so this is what it feels like. And it's just, oh my god, it just makes for such a emotional, personal send-off to this character. And just, yeah, I literally couldn't ask for anything better. It's just so good, and it's just such a big departure from like anything we've gotten in the superhero genre, just how gritty and real it feels and everything. It's just so phenomenal. It's so good that I was like worried about Hugh Jackman Wolverine coming back in Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, a movie is that good where like they end it so perfectly, you're worried they're gonna tarnish it if they like bring it back. And that's kind of the same way how Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4 were. It's just, when you end it so perfectly, you want it just to stay perfect like that. So yeah, it just, oh my god, it's so good. I love it so much. It's also one of those films that always gets me crying at the end of the whole movie. So yeah, all in all, that's why it's my favorite movie of 2017. And easily my favorite film of 2018 is Avengers Infinity War. And back in the day when this film first came out, it was just such a big deal for like the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy like to finally team up. Was just like this huge crossover event. And nowadays we like look back on it and it doesn't really seem like much, considering now we get like stuff like the multiverse and Spider-Man teaming up and all of that. But you know, back in the day, seeing the Guardians and the Avengers was a big deal, and just all of the other characters like meeting each other for the first time and fighting together, and all of this, just all of them coming together was really cool. And you know, we get one of the best villains in all of the MCU with Thanos, who has like such an amazing motive that you can kind of get behind, but at the same time, you know, he's got to be stopped and everything. And then speaking about getting stopped, the fact that Thanos won in this film is crazy. Like when the snap happened and everyone started getting dusted, and you know, Thanos sits there and watches the sun rise and the credits start rolling, was just crazy. Me, when I watched this film, I was actually furious. I was just like, what? That's how they're gonna end it? And I gotta wait a year to know what happens? Like, I distinctly remember getting picked up from the movie theater by my mom, and she's like, so how was it? And I was just like, I was losing it. I was like, Mom, I can't wait to see the next one in a year. Like, what's gonna happen? And just, oh my God, like at the time I was furious, but now that I've seen the big picture and everything and see what finally happens, I just, it makes me appreciate this film and appreciate how like they let the bad guy win for once, and it just made for such an amazing film all in all. So the fact that we see all of these characters come together, working together, fighting together, we got an amazing villain in Thanos, and the fact that Thanos actually won is crazy, and that's why this is easily one of the best films of the MCU and my favorite film of 2018. And you probably guessed it, my favorite film of 2019 is of course Avengers Endgame, and continuing from Infinity War with this like massive, huge spectacle, you know, all like 20 or so films that have came out before this, just all leading up to this one film just feels so special. You know, starting off with, of course, all of like the cool time travel stuff, like going back in time and like going to different films, like the first Avengers and like Thor the Dark World and Guardians of the Galaxy to collect the stones is just really, really cool. Going back to these different films and everything was just really, really cool to see. And just, but of course, we all know the standout of this film is the final battle. That final battle is just one of the greatest like hours of cinema history in my opinion, and like watching that in theaters is probably one of the happiest moments of my life, to be honest. I don't know if that like says something about me, like that I have a sad life or something, but just the final hour battle of that film is just amazing. Of course, you know, you start off with like the trio, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America facing off against Thanos. That scene by itself is phenomenal. And then, you know, with that scene, of course, the best part of that whole little fight is Captain America holding Mjolnir. That was amazing. But that wasn't it. They didn't stop there. You know, of course, the portal scene. Captain America facing off against Thanos' army. He is ready to die. He's not giving up. He is willing to do a one man against this whole army. And then you hear Sam Wilson. You hear him go, Cap, and then he says, on your left. And then the first portal opens, and Black Panther and Shuri and Okoye, they all walk out. And then more portals open, and then they keep opening, and then the score rises and rises as all these heroes walk through the portal, and then they all line up, and then Cap, of course, says, Avengers, assemble. And then the greatest final battle of all time happens. It just, thinking about it, I have so many goosebumps. You should have seen me in the theaters during that scene. Like, ask my friend who I saw it with. I was bawling my eyes out just because all I was thinking about during that scene was just thinking about how this is the culmination of something amazing, like the culmination of 10 years. All those films, all those years is leading to this. This is the culmination. This is the final battle. This is what it's all been leading up to right here. And it just, oh my God, like it was just, you had to be there. You just honestly had to be there. If you saw this like opening weekend, you know what I'm talking about. If you followed the films and watched them and everything, and you know all the lore, all the backstory, all these characters, it just, oh my God, I love it so much. It is like the greatest final battle of all time. And then of course, you know, Iron Man's sacrifice was also a great send off to that character and everything. And just, yeah, just all these characters fighting together, the portal scene, the Iron Man send off, just all of it makes for such a phenomenal film. And this used to be my favorite film of all time before I saw Prisoners and everything. And you know, you're either an Endgame kind of guy or an Infinity War kind of guy. And you know, most people kind of lean towards Infinity War, but me, I go with Endgame because I think as cool as Infinity War was with all these characters working together, it got a little crowded to me personally, like going back and forth between New York, Wakanda, Titan, and all of that stuff. So the fact that Endgame, half the universe got dusted, we can like go back to our core 6 and a couple other characters, and we can like show their whole story and everything, and then we get all the characters coming back for the finale. So that's why I like Endgame over Infinity War, and that's why Endgame is one of my favorite films of all time and easily my favorite film of 2019. So that's the whole list. Those are my favorite films of the 2010s. This is like gonna be a really, really long video. As you can see, I'm just really passionate about all of these films because, I grew up watching all these films. I watched most of these films in theaters, so they all play a very special part in my life and everything. So yeah, that's why I had a lot to say. And so that is kind of like the end of this little series of mine because, obviously I can't talk about the 2020s yet because we are currently in them. And so hopefully I'll remember 5 years down the line to make a 2020s video talking about my favorite movie of every year of the 2020s. But what I might do before then is I might do the 70s. I haven't seen enough from the 70s, like the early years of the 70s. I don't think I've seen enough to get a full grasp on that whole decade, but I'm going to make an effort to watch more films from the 70s so I can make more of a proper video about the 70s and everything. I would love to hear some of your favorite movies of the 2010s, and with all that said, farewell.